welcome back to Math Partake. So today we're going to be converting numbers that are decimals into percentages. And I'll give you a few basic examples. You actually see 4 here right on the paper. And then I'll give you a quick and easy way to check if they're correct. So the main idea is that when you have a decimal like what you see here, and you want to turn it into a percent, you have to move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. And then you will replace the decimal with a percent sign. Okay, let's look at example number 1, which says 0.2 is our decimal. So the first step that we need to take in order to change this decimal into a percent is that we need to move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. So let's do that. First, I'm just going to rewrite 0.2, and then I'm going to move this decimal 2 spaces to the right. The second step that we need to do is that we simply just need to fill all the empty spaces with zeros. So right here, you see that we moved the decimal 2 spaces to the right, and there's only 1 empty space. That empty space is right in here. So we're just going to fill that empty space with a 0. And then the last step is that we're going to replace this decimal that we moved, that would technically be here. We're going to replace that with a percent sign. So I'll just rewrite it as so. 20%. Simple as that. So we're going to say 0.2 equals 20%. And that is your first answer. Now, a very quick and easy way to check this is just to simply take your decimal, which is 0.2, and then multiply it by 100. So 0.2 times 100 is equal to 20. As you see there, our answer is 20%. Let's move on to the next one. So our next example here is 0.05. Okay. I'm going to rewrite it 0.05. And our first step, just as before, is to move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. Okay. Now we see here, there are no empty spaces. Okay. We have a number in this space. We have a number in this space. So all we have to do now is replace what would be the decimal sign over here with a percent sign. So we're going to go equals 0.5%. And of course, 0.5% is the same thing as saying 5%. And that is your answer. Let's quickly check to see if that answer is correct. We're going to do 0.05 times 100 in our calculator, and we see that we get 5. And right here it says 5%. So this too is correct. So real quick, I want to say, if this video is helping you so far, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and of course, share this video with somebody else that might need this type of help. So if we look on to our third example, we see here 0.001. Now this one is a little bit different. I'm going to show you why. So of course, our first step, we're going to rewrite 0.001, and then we're going to move this decimal 2 spaces to the right. But now here we have a situation that we did not run into in our first 2 examples. So little common mistake alert of what happens. All right. So when you convert the decimal to a percentage, as we've been doing here in our examples, and the decimal lands between 2 numbers, that's what's happening here. This decimal is landing in between 2 numbers when we move it 2 spaces to the right. You're going to keep the decimal and the percent sign. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So what's going to happen here is, because the decimal lands between this 0 and this 1, we're going to keep it. So we're going to write 0.1, and then we'll put a percent sign at the end. Okay. And this is equivalent to 0.1%. And that's your answer. So let's take a look at our last example, which is a number 1. And the reason why I put this is because there's another rule that I want you to actually catch. So here's a rule alert. Notice that this has no decimal here. So what I want you to know is that if a decimal is placed to the far right of some numbers, okay, in this case, there's only one number here, it does not change the number's value. So that means that this 1, I can say, is equal to 1, and then put a decimal, and then you can put a 0. As long as you put a 0 after the decimal, the number does not change. Okay? Now that we have it this way, we can do the same process that we did with all the other examples. So the first step, we would obviously rewrite this 1.0, and then we would move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. And we know from earlier that our next step is to fill all the empty spaces with zeros. There's only one empty space here, right here. So we're going to go 1, 0, 0. And then our last step is, instead of putting a decimal here where we moved it, we're just going to put a % sign. And that is your answer. So real quick, we're going to just check these two and make sure that they're correct. So in this one here, 0.001 times 100 equals, we get a 0.1. Look at that, 0.1%. Same exact thing. Now let's try our next one. Right here we have a 1, so we're going to do 1 times 100 equals, and we get 100. Right here, we get 100%. There you go. Hey, thanks for watching. For more answers and help that you may need in math, subscribe to Math Partake.